balance and keep the fund in good shape. We'll go through that a little bit more, I think, later on. But in this all work and no pay, why is it that pension funds in the public sector are being attacked? All right, here's the answer. If you look on the left, you say you have nothing to lose but your gains. And it has three, for those of you who can't see it, there's one big thing like this, and that shows the percent of increase in average income for the top 1% of our income earners in the United States. This is year 1979, this is year 2009. The 1% have done very nicely. They've gone from whatever they were earning in 1979 to 250% more. They're now earning 250% more than 1979, the 1%. Then this next one, which is the pale line, is the average productivity increases. Productivity in that period of time, 79 to 2009, which was what, 30 years? Productivity has gone up over 80%. Computers mainly. Computers running the machines that we used to, I stood here and ran one machine. Now I stand here and watch a whole bunch of machines. And I manage those whole bunch of machines doing work controlled by computers. So, and then computers in the offices, computers in the banks, and all the rest of our normal types of computers that we think about, personal type computers. So anyway, productivity is up 80%, and the wages, the overall wages for the people working in the United States from 1979 to 2009 have gone up about 10%. 10%, when they take it into account inflation and all the rest of that stuff. The result is, if the median household income means half of the families in the United States have more, half of the families in the United States earn less. Median family income. That means all of the income in that family. The mother, the father, the grandmother, the grandfather, if they're all working in that family, every kid that has a job part-time that works, all that money is put together. It isn't just one person working. The median family income, if that had kept pace with the economy since 1970, it would now be nearly $92,000 a year instead of $50,000 a year. This is slightly old. The median family income in the state of Wisconsin is about $54,000 a year. That means you put everybody's money together, half of them earn less than $54,000, half earn more than $54,000. So the 1% and the 10%, the rest of those folks have done extremely well. Hogan could do much better than 240%, I don't know. And then the rest of us come up with a whopping 15% increase in family income after 30 years. On the bottom right is the share of wage and salary workers in unions, 1950 to 1910. In 1950, we had about 30%. We went up to about 33%. That was the highest percentage of workers we have ever had in unions, 33%. And now it's down to about 12%. Unions brought us an awful lot of different things. One of them is defined benefit pension plans, better salaries, and all the rest of that stuff. And they bring everybody else defined pension plans and better salaries, because the people that are unionized pull everybody else along, and for certain management personnel, we push the management. The more we get as union employees, the more they pay management. So what's happened is it's decreased. We no longer have the power that we had in the past. The Democrats don't listen to us anymore. The Republicans never really did listen to us too much. Some did, but most didn't. And so now, because unions over the last 20 years have realized that the power is not necessarily at the bargaining table, the power is at your state legislature, and the power is at the federal legislature. So you have to use your power at those levels, or you will be gutted at the bargaining table. The folks that have the power in the United States, meaning the 1%, don't like people messing in their politics. And so they said, how is it that we will be able to knock off the power of unions? And so they do a number of different dances. Walker did the number on unions by knocking them off in his budget bill under a false budget crisis that he had. So the result is that we have all of these attacks on workers, and the reason that corporations don't like unions is not only because then you have to pay those workers more, but those union workers mess up all the rest of the workers. You know? When I say, oh, it's so nice, we're giving you $9.27 an hour, but look at the beautiful lunchroom we have. Isn't it wonderful? And I will sell you a $4 sandwich for $3.50 because we're a good company. You know? And you say, well, yeah, I guess I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You know? And the boss says, I appreciate the $9.25 an hour that the guy takes. You know? And he's not union. That's what I like about him. You know? So they do not want unions. The unions get in their way. The unions get in the way for management, how they want to run the companies, and all the rest of that stuff. So they say we have to gut unions. And anything unions have, we have to gut them. So they have gutted in the public sector versus the private sector. This is another page here. So in 1978, a century ago, there were 128,000 pension plans in the United States, covering public sector workers and private sector. 128,000 plans. And they covered 41% of all of the workers. 41% of all the workers in the United States were covered by a pension plan, and almost all those pension plans were defined benefit pension plans. How old are you when you retire? How many years have you worked for us? And what kind of money will you earn? And that cranks out your formula for the rest of your life. That was 1978. Those were the good old days. All right? Today, you have in the private sector 26,000 defined benefit pension plans, and it only covers 21% of the workers. So they've taken it from 41% of all the workers were covered by a defined pension plan down to 21% of all the workers. And they'd like to have 0% covered by defined benefit. Because defined benefit means that the company is responsible for prudently managing the money in a professional manner and guaranteeing that you will get that floor benefit for the rest of your life. They don't like that. So they've gotten rid of it, and the corporation CEOs and the stockholders have gotten all the money that would be going into pension plans. So they rip off the pension plan. They get more money for the top executives, and they get more profit, which they can then distribute in dividends. So that is what's going on in the United States. They want to help make us poor. So for a lot of us, they can't offshore our jobs. Hard to offshore a McDonald's job, all right? Although they could mechanize it. You could speak into now you speak into the machine that says, what would you like? I'd say, oh, a cup of senior coffee with 2 creams. And I could go to a window in the thing and shoot me a hand, would shoot me a senior coffee. A machine would do that, you know, they could do that. But anyway, they don't do that yet. So the result is they have a lot of us they're stuck with to be able to produce the things that we're still producing in our country, but by God, we're going to have you work for as little money as we can. So that's what's going on. And so the pension plans for public employees are like a little pimple sticking out in a big ocean. And they see that and they say, that is what we have to attack. Because if we let those public employees have good pensions, how can we, respond to all of our workers? So instead, we've taken it, and they've done it with a wonderful set of propaganda tools to be able to convince all the workers that those public employees have Cadillac pension plans on my dollar, And here I work like very, very hard to earn these wages, which seem to be going down, but I can't argue about that. Everybody's wages are going down. But these people just have too damn much. And that's what they have got the citizens thinking about public employees. And because the pension funds are so difficult, it's difficult to respond to that. Plus, nobody in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel had a wonderful article yesterday that was real propaganda about why pension plans, the state of Wisconsin's pension plan is funded too much, you know. So Roger calls him up on the phone and says, "Hi, I'm Roger Springman, I'm a retiree and I'd like to straighten you guys out." I said, "You joke, call back another time, pal," clap, and that's it. And it's just, the propaganda comes out, it goes to the media, and the media prints the propaganda, and we all read it and say, "Is that really what's happening?" What is next, Roger?
Okay, we're going to actually continue with that line of thinking, because exactly to Buzz's point, May 30th, 2012, yesterday, I'm going to read the opening line of an article that was released by Jason Richwine, Senior Policy Analyst at the Heritage Foundation. I'm just going to read his opening line, and that's it. "In the contentious national debate over public pension cost, Wisconsin is ground zero." Okay, this is the opening line. "Yet, few taxpayers know how much money they are paying for the state's public pension program." This is the Heritage Foundation. This is how the attacks occur on our public pension program, by trying to convince taxpayers that we somehow, number one, are soaking up all this money, and secondarily, as I began about a half hour ago, saying, well, furthermore, these people haven't earned it either. Well, actually, as I said at the opening, we sat down and bargained this. The state agreed to it. We agreed to it because, at least in those days, there was an honest appreciation for the value of something that meant something to both sides. If I could have a stable workforce who really would trade some wages for a good pension system, if I'm a good employer, why wouldn't I say, you know what, that's not a bad deal. I'm going to make my workers happy. I end up maybe at about the same level for money, and they're happy, and I'm pretty happy too, because I got good workers, and they're going to stay here a long time. So that's where you'd like to be, but that's not where we are. In this article that came out of the Heritage Foundation, that also Buzz alluded to, the Milwaukee State Journal ran a kind of a quasi-related story on yesterday, gives you a sense of how these attacks are going to keep coming, and here's the reason. Now I'm going to switch to some real things that are going on in the state that some of you may have heard about, and if you want to follow with me, it's in that opening handout where the first page talks about debunking the myths. So if you want to find that one, just quickly follow along with me for the next few minutes. I'll give you the current update on these next topics. So if you flip that first page over, go to the next page, that's our second Powers publication. And the title is, "Make no mistake, your retirement system is under assault. Now is the time to defend it." So if you skip down to about halfway or a bit more there, I'm going to go over a couple things that give life to what Buzz just said and what I just said, how these attacks spread out of the think tanks, Republican think tanks, whether it be the Heritage Foundation, the Guyver, Bradley Foundation, Club for Growth. They all have the same net goal. Let's get public pension programs into the private sector vis-a-vis 401k style approaches. Well, how is it occurring in Wisconsin? Well, here's the first answer. Last year in Act 32, the budget bill, the Walker administration, with obviously help from the Joint Finance Committee, inserted a provision to require the ETF and the state to do a study of two major provisions affecting the Wisconsin retirement system. The first one is, should we have a defined contribution option? They are studying that right now, and within the next about 30 days, that study will be released by the end of June, of course, after the recall election. So we won't know what it says, but we already have conjecture what it's going to say. And the second provision is opt-out. Should we allow employees to opt out of the Wisconsin retirement system? How many of you have heard about that study? A number of you? Looks like you a lot have. So here's what that study is. ETF has largely, Buzz and I were at a conference about 2 weeks ago, sponsored by the Coalition of Annuitants, and we heard the current update, which is that the ETF has completed their internal review and work on their portion of the study. And you could rest assured that Bob Conklin, the new ETF director, gave a pretty heartwarming rendition of the fact that this program is working well, leave it alone. Unfortunately, it's not just the ETF that gets a chance to take that study, that initial study, and review it. Guess who gets it next? DOA and OSER, Office of State Employment Relations, and the Department of Administration. So that study will go to those two agencies, and that's where the politics start inside of our current government. So they're going to look at what ETF said, and maybe they already knew what ETF was going to say. And then they're going to start going, well, I don't know about this, I don't know about that. Well, yeah, it's working well, but that point here they made about future actuarial needs and the fact, well, we had an awful lot of state retirements last year, strangely enough. Maybe the system's not as healthy as it should be. Maybe we should even allow opt-out. Maybe we should let future employees decide if they want to be in the system or not in the system. So what'll happen then politically inside DOA and OSER over the next 3 to 4 weeks, first of all, they're going to watch what happens on Tuesday. Tuesday is the big day for the Wisconsin retirement system, make no mistake. Because if Walker's, to be honest, if Walker's defeated, game off. If Walker is not defeated, game on. And they get to do their stuff, complete a report for the rest of June, release it to Walker and the Joint Finance Committee, because the other thing that Buzz and I are very alert to is the fact that normally a study that involves the retirement system goes to a special joint committee of the legislature. Well, guess what? They're not doing that this time. It's going to Walker and it's going to the Joint Finance Committee by language in Act 32 from last summer. So they get to look at it first. Now, it's going to be a public document. Well, we're all going to know what that says probably by the last day of the month or the very first week of July. And so, depending upon the results of Tuesday's election, what I'm going to tell you now is what I think we're going to end with anyway, is that we have to stay mobilized and together to take on the ultimate attack on the Wisconsin retirement system. Kind of no matter what happens on Tuesday next week, although one result is better than another, the outside forces that want to see this system devolved or weakened are still going to be there. The Heritage Foundation, the Club for Growth, the Koch brothers, Paul Ryan, all those people who hate big public things are still going to hate big public things. And they're still going to want to attack us, but without their friends in our Wisconsin state capitol, they won't have quite an easy of a chance to do it. So be alert to the politics next Tuesday. That's why they're important. And the study that's due late June is going to be a big driver then of what happens to our system and our need to stay all connected together. So our group Powers that Buzz and I work with, we already know this. We're trying to stay on top of it. And there's going to be an awful lot of press conferences in late June, early July, by groups that care about the Wisconsin retirement system. And if you do here in this room, we surely want to make sure that you sign up on a sign-up sheet so we can keep you abreast of all the late-breaking news, because this is something that benefits the state, our communities, and our families. We cannot let this devolve and go away. We have to stand up and defend it, quite honestly. This is a time to be counted for. There's a time to sit, and there's a time to stand. This is a time to stand. But, so that's the one big thing I'll mention, the Act 32. Well, there was a certain legislator who said, you know what, I'm pretty impatient. I can't wait till next summer. I want to do something right now. That person was Pat Strakota, a Republican ALEC member. How many of you know ALEC? All right, good for you. And ALEC, bless their hearts, they're so smart. They just happen to have produced a piece of legislation in their packet called Public Employees Portable Retirement Option Act. I have it right here. Well, guess who also had a copy of this in her portfolio? Pat Strakota. And she said, well, let's try it now. So on January this past year, she put together AB 539, which said, why don't we let University of Wisconsin employees opt out right now? Why wait till summer? If it's such a good thing, let's start it now. So she took that model bill right here that I have in front of me, changed the language. I think she probably took, whatever allows you to put the word state in, you put Wisconsin in, or name the Wisconsin retirement system. So she just tweaked this thing here for Wisconsin, introduced it. She got a whole bunch, well, not a whole bunch, she got maybe 8 or 10 sponsors in the assembly, but the Senate said, we're not gonna get involved. We got the mining bill, we got some other big things on the agenda. The senators, including my own Luther Olson, who 12 of us, or 14 of us went and visited. I got him to sit back there in his chair and his big kind of paunch and, oh, why would I want to do that, Roger? It's my system too. I said, that's right, Luther, why would you want to do that? I said, that's exactly the answer I want to hear from you. So we got him on record saying, I don't want to do that, I'm not going to sign, because he obviously knew about this bill. And he said, I'm not going to do that. I said, well, good, Luther, that's a great answer. But I'm going to myself, I don't trust you. Because his wife is in its system too, by the way. So legislators are in the system. So rest assured that whenever they tinker with this stuff, they're not going to tinker with it that's going to affect them because they're already in the system. They will tinker with it in some way for anyone who comes after them. So that's important for what Buzz and I are going to get to right at the end here. So that's something I want you to know about is that. And so AB 539 was there. And the other things I'll point out to you are this, our retirement system can be tinkered with and damaged in many ways. One of the more disgusting things that happened, and how many of you are teachers in here or worked with, okay. Well, I don't have to tell you about the ERC's ruling on base pay and that nonsense, but that attack on public teachers was disgusting in itself, not only because of the effect on the public teachers and their families and their income, but it also, I mean, these things all add up. This is kind of it's kind of like you keep, somebody that can hold 20 pounds, all right, put on 5 more pounds, put on 5 more pounds. It's like pretty soon they just got to drop everything. Well, that's kind of what's going on now. So they added this other 5-pound weight to the load that the system already is getting, which was the fact that when a teacher or any professional loses that kind of pay, and the pay is based on a matching contribution of 5.8%, if their pay goes down that much, guess what? Their contributions into the retirement system also drop. So you start adding more employees, 12,000 more people retired more than normal last year. So you get all these extra retirees into the system now. You got fewer state employees in the system working. Then you take base pay away from our teachers, who surely did not deserve that attack. And then what happens? The system starts to erode from within. And that's what's going on, folks. This is very kind of sinister, it's very manipulative, and so they don't really, I mean, they could go after the big kahuna here and this Act 32 stuff, the study in late January, but they've already added enough starting kind of uncertainty into the system that is starting to, it's not teetering, I mean, because the system knows how to fix itself and it was designed that way, but all these things do add up and they do make a difference. And so that's what I want you to appreciate and understand as a function of our discussion tonight. Buzz, we only have a few minutes left. I know we have to kind of start winding down here. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to jump into?
Yeah. We already know roughly what percent of people will opt out of a retirement system. And on this page, if you have it, even if you don't have it, you don't have to look for it too much. But in the private sector, 64% of the workers have access to a retirement fund. Doesn't mean a defined benefit pension system, but just some sort of corporate retirement fund. Most likely a 401k type fund. 64% of the workers have access to it, and 49% of the workers participate in it. In other words, 15% of those workers don't participate in the retirement fund which their company offers. 15%. So, really, public sector people are usually not much different than private sector people. And so if the state or the government body pushes how wonderful it is to opt out of this public pension fund, and you are able to control your money yourself. The dollar you earn is better in your wallet than over here taken care of by this public sector person. You know how to manage your money better than anybody else. So we're asking you to opt out of this horrible communist type system over there. It's called the Wisconsin retirement system, and manage that money yourself. In fact, for the first year or two, we'll even give you 3%. We'll match your dollar for dollar, or whatever they want to make to get you out of the system. And then once they got you out of the system, they can pull back what they're going to contribute toward your retirement, and you say, oh yeah, well I want back in the system now. How silly that is. You can't get younger, and you can't get back into our system. You're done. Those people over here who were dumb enough to stay in our system are still going to be in our system, but we just haven't figured out a way to get rid of them yet. But we got rid of you, you're done. You know, good luck. And then you retire, and the stock market's up here, and you start taking your money out, and a year later, you have half of what you had a year ago. How many did that happen to? Me. I retired in 2000, and by a few years later, we had half of what we had, and that wasn't even this big one. It keeps going down, up and down, up and down, up and down. So that's what they want to do. And the, let's see, what else we should mention? Oh, money. For those of you who will be in or are already in the retirement system for the state of Wisconsin and retired, you have a floor, which is what we talked about before. The first payment you ever receive from the state is guaranteed to be like that for the rest of your life under the present law. But Roger, we don't, what law is it that I should change?
You know, Buzz, I've looked at the numbers and they're just not working. We're gonna have to change it.
Number,
We're just gonna have to change it.
just tell me which law it is, Roger.
It's,
okay,
4019.
we got a solution here. 4019, we're just gonna delete that. That's just a minor thing that we do, and it's gone. In the Joint Finance Committee, that thing is done. And then you say, but they can't lower my money any more than they ever did before. Oh, yes, they can now, because we just have it in the budget. The budget had to be passed pretty fast. We didn't have enough time to really discuss all the things in the budget. But anyway, we've changed the law, and now we can reduce yours to 75% of what your base was. And we've already been reducing your base. If